Dear Prime Minister, dear Robert, it is a pleasure to host you in the European Parliament for our This is Europe debate. These have been difficult days for European democracy, and I am grateful to the Prime Minister for making the time on such a crucial week for the European Union. Allow me first to reiterate that the European Parliament and I personally will do everything we can to fight corruption. There will be no impunity, there will be no sweeping under the carpet. Our internal investigation will look at what has happened and how our systems can be made more watertight. Our House is on the side of the law. The upcoming European Council this week will be crucial to ensure that Europe's energy legislation will not only help get energy bills of households and businesses under control, but also contribute to our long-term climate goals. It is essential that the European Parliament is fully involved in the legislation to reform the gas and electricity markets. This is not the time to backtrack on our climate ambitions. Skyrocketing energy prices have also pushed inflation to record heights, coupled with rising interest rates. This has created a tsunami effect on the current EU budget, and a revision of the current multi-annual financial framework is therefore becoming inevitable. The EU budget needs updating to include new priorities for more flexibility in response to emerging challenges. Final point, I would like to highlight the rule of law and the importance of the conditionality regulation, and let me here welcome the decisions taken in the Council last night. This Parliament has insisted from day one on this point. It is fundamental that all Member States adhere to the treaties they signed up to when they joined the European Union. Thank you very much. Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Berta. Good morning from my side as well. It's a special honor to be here for the first time to address the European Parliament. The times that we are living right now are really dire, and they do need bold and decisive actions. The fields of energy, the geopolitical situation, and even more so, the role of the rule of law are those topics that I will be addressing to the Parliament as well in my speech to the parliamentarians. When it comes to geopolitical situation, if there is one thing that, if I need to choose one thing to pinpoint, is the unity of Europe. Europe is as strong as it's united. And this is a clear message that we need to not just send to the world, but we need to stick to at all times, and especially during the forthcoming week, not just because of the situation here in the Parliament, but also the situation within the European Council, where we need to be not just decisive, but we need to stay united. Speaking about energy, energy is one of those particular topics where we did have some success during the October European Council meeting, but we shall not linger. We need to work further. And this week is going to be a very, very important week to show again the unity and to address the issue of high energy prices. Implementing the spice cap, coming to an agreement on price cap is so important, because that's really what our people, that's what our industry, that's what our economy is awaiting from us. We cannot show any weaknesses here. And speaking about rule of law, Slovenia and me personally were always supportive of rule of law. We've had not so nice experience in the last couple of years, what the consequences of weakening rule of law could mean internally to our democracy. That's why we will be always, within my government, supportive of any measures to increase and improve and strengthen the rule of law, either within my own country, but also in other EU member states. In that regard, we fully support the measures, and we will also express that support at the European Council meeting this Thursday. Having said that, I invite all of you to come and listen to the debate that we will be having, discussion. We will have it at the Parliament later, and hopefully we will come to some conclusions that will be of value as well to the wider EU. Because one lesson that I've learned is that when it comes to Europe, it's not how big the country is that you're coming from, but how much knowledge you can bring to the table. And this is something that I want to emphasize, not just here, but also back home, to be ambitious. Be ambitious not because you are big, but be ambitious because you know what you're talking about.
Great. Thank you. Question?
This is Mojca Širo from the Slovene Public Television. Unfortunately, the Slovene Prime Minister's speech comes, that's Europe, speech comes amongst a corruption scandal. So, Madam President, my question is, do you have any indication that this scandal is going to spread any further? And for the Slovene Prime Minister, as a former energy executive, you are coming from the other side, from the special interest groups. So what is your experience with political corruption? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, this is a difficult week. It has been a very difficult few days, but what I have seen in terms of our response, first from a practical level in our full and immediate cooperation with the judicial and law enforcement authorities, both in Belgium and in other countries over the last few days, as well as the political statements, the unanimous decision of the Conference of Presidents today in order to trigger Rule 21, which will remove a vice president from her position with a vote at noon that will be taken a few minutes after the Prime Minister's speech, together with a commitment of practical implementation, whether it is tightening of our rules, whether it is inquiring further, whether it is looking at the influence of certain third countries, we will not stop and leave no stone unturned. I cannot predict where this will go, but what I can say, I fear, and this is in a general point of view after our initial findings, is that the story will not stop here.
First, let me reiterate that we have zero tolerance when it comes to corruption, but that doesn't mean that we were not witnessing corruption, especially in the energy, in Slovenia a decade ago, when a large investment in a thermal power plant in Šoštanj was undergoing. And at that time, and the problem is that that scandal has not been really, it hasn't come to a judicial end yet in the law courts. So hopefully during our mandate, the judicial system will be able to conclude that particular process when it comes to corruption scandal. But the one good news is that usually the corruption is linked to big traditional investments. When it comes to energy, that means big fossil investments. Now, seeing that the green transition is here and that is really the only way forward, and that green transition is more dispersed when it comes to investment, meaning there are a large number of small investment, that definitely brings good news to the table, meaning that there is less chance, but also less need for any kind of corruption. So that gives me some optimism for the future.
Quick question to both of you. How far the EU's requirements on rule of law are satisfied at the deal that was struck yesterday evening in Brussels with Hungary, and Hungary also lifted its veto on the credit facility for Ukraine. And President Metsola, I would like to ask you how the European Parliament can get back its credibility on the long term, on the mid-term, because we see already that populist leaders are, questioning the European Parliament's credibility, for example, on the fight against corruption. So what can be done? Thank you.
So I think, starting with your second question, our reaction so far has been precisely to fight against the temptation to do that. This institution is a proud one. I have not only the honor, but the responsibility to lead it and make sure that our effectiveness in dealing with scandals such as this will not tarnish an institution that has fought so proudly on rule of law and against corruption. That's why I said yesterday in my speech, this is not about right or left, this is not about north or south. Let's not let these individual members, whom unfortunately have let themselves be influenced, but also let's not let down our guard with organizations that pose with, let's say, some sort of facade when it's clearly not the case. We need to look at all of this and we need to make sure that our reactions are immediate and clear and effective. If we do that, then we can go to the citizens in 2024 and say we as co-legislators, we as directly represented institutions that are directly elected can be once more the bastion of that rule of law and fundamental rights that we have been fighting for, at least if I can talk about my experience here for the past 10 years. And specifically on this, on rule of law, when we talk about what has happened this week, I am glad, of course, that we will be able to grant the macro-financial assistance, which we will also vote on under an urgency procedure today, at noon of 18 billion euros to Ukraine. That is important when we have millions of Ukrainians without electricity, without heating, without clean water, and at the same time making sure that we have the possibility to move further with our project. And on this, I would also take it to our long-standing plea for the enlargement of the Schengen area. I will once again make this point during the European Council that it is truly a pity if we do not proceed with the enlargement of Schengen to those countries that have for years now fulfilled all the technical and legal requirements because of the lack of political will. I think that that is when our responsibility, our positions are put to the test, and we have to stand up to it, and we have to take responsibility for them.
Just reverting to back what I was saying before, we experienced ourselves what detrimental effect on democracy the weakening of the rule of law can have in our own country in the past years. For that reason, we really feel that it is crucial that we take this issue totally serious. Now, coming back to yesterday's agreement, I also believe that there would be no excuse for anyone to block the so needed help to the Ukrainians at this particular point in time, when ordinary people are freezing because of Russian aggression on their critical infrastructure. No excuse here. Nobody can say, and we will veto that help. In that regard, of course, I'm glad that they come to let's call it peaceful agreement, but that we didn't back off of the implementation of the rule of law. So it's a good decision. It's a good trade-off, if you want, and we will fully support it in the European Council.
Thank you very much.